We break our connection with the external world. We break our connection with the environment. We break our connection to all the elements that reinforce the automatic programs to define us as an identity. Neuroscience and psychology tells us that the brain... You guys still geniuses? So I want to ask you a question. The brain is organized, according to neuroscience, to reflect everything that you know in your life. Everything you know in the environment. A chair, a book, a person, place you live, place you're going to go, things you do, things you can demonstrate. The brain is organized to reflect everything we know in the environment. So if the brain is organized to reflect everything in the environment and our thoughts have something to do with our destiny, if the environment is causing us to think, if we're responding to the environment every single day by recognizing familiar people and familiar emotions and familiar places, wouldn't you agree then, if the environment is causing us to think, what are we creating more of the same? We're reinforcing the same circumstances in our life. In other words, as the environment causes us to think, we're only thinking equal to the environment, which causes the same things to unfold. To change is to think greater than the environment, to think greater than the circumstances in our life, to think greater than the conditions in our world. And by the way, geniuses, that's what we admire in history, the great people in history. Whether it was William Wallace, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, charismatic leaders, Queen Elizabeth, they all said the same thing. They all said, you see, I have this dream. I have this vision. I have this idea. I can't get it out of my head. And, even though this dream hasn't manifested yet, I can't see it yet, I can't smell it or taste it or feel it or hear it, I don't have the experience of it yet, but I'm going to live as if it's already happened. I'm going to live as if it's happening now. And I don't care what happens to my body. I don't care what the conditions are in my life. And I don't care how long it takes. I'm just going to live as if it's already done. Now that leader is a true leader. Do you know why? Because he has mind and body working together. She has behavior matching her intention. She has thoughts and actions aligned. Mind and body are working together. A true leader has mind and body working together. A politician has his mind doing one thing and his body doing something else. So, can you believe in a thought, a dream, a vision, that you can't perceive with your senses, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is reflecting the event ahead of the experience? If you can live by that law, you're living by the quantum law. We can prepare the brain, the mind, and the body ahead of the actual experience. And if the brain, the mind, and the body are ahead of the actual experience in the quantum field, the experience happened. Because the body and the mind are reflecting it already. So how does subjective mind affect the objective world? In other words, geniuses, does your environment control your thinking, or does your thinking control your environment? So if the brain and the mind and the body are ahead of the actual experience, and it looks like in the brain that the event happened, it looks like in the body's already changing as if the experience happened, wouldn't you agree then in the quantum field the event has happened? And now the event finds you. The quantum field rearranges your life. And it comes in a way you can't predict. And it's fun. And it's surprising. And it leaves no doubt that it came from this greater mind. Because if you can figure out how it's going to happen, it's not new. And the brain wouldn't change. It has to be a surprise. And the brain loves surprises. And so the brain is no longer a record of the past. But if the brain and the mind and the body are ahead of the experience, now the brain is a map to the future. And the privilege of being a human being is that we can make thought more real than anything else. And because we can make thought more real than anything else, the thought can become the experience. And all it takes is training the brain and the mind. And when we get truly serious and we make up our mind, you know, when you make up your mind about something, how many people have said, that is it. I am done. You know, that's the first time your body says, oh my God, he's actually serious today. Instead of, I think I'm going to get happy. You know, I think I'll start tomorrow. But why do we wait as human beings for crisis to happen for us to get serious? Why do we wait for tragedy before we make up our mind? Before we say, that's it? Great leaders in history never waited. They were possessed. You know, why do we talk ourselves out of greatness? We talk ourselves out of greatness because, you know, just because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And the moment that we realize that we can observe our thoughts and observe our actions without participating in them, we're on the first step to change. Because the privilege of being a human being says, because we have this big frontal lobe of ours, 40% of our entire brain, we have this faculty called metacognition that says we can observe our thoughts and observe our behaviors so that we can change our thoughts and change our behaviors so that we can produce a better outcome in our life. So that we can forecast an idea into the future. We can modify our behavior to do a better job. So the people in history that were great, they didn't wait for evidence. Their brain and their mind and their body were ahead of the event. And, you know, when we live with that type of idealism, we are believing in thought more than we're believing in the conditions in our world. Now, what is your definition of prayer? Isn't prayer believing in thought more than you believe in the environment? Aren't you believing in your intention more than you're believing in your circumstances? And because we all share the same brain anatomically, what do we do when we get in trouble in our lives? We all do the same thing. We eliminate the environment. We want to think without the environment. We want to close our eyes and say, this is what I want. I want this. And I'm going to intend on this. I need a change in my life. And I'm going to keep intending on this until some supernatural power comes in and reorganizes my life to reflect my intention.